Tonight is the big night. Game one of the series that will decide if the Diamondbacks are going to play October baseball or if they're going to have to sit out once again.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, the show where we talk nothing but the Diamondbacks Monday through Friday. And thank you so much for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every single day. I'm your host, Danon Biggs, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Today, we're hearing from Jesus Diaz, who mentioned in a comment recently that selling was probably the best thing this season for the Diamondbacks at the trade deadline. It's like we got a completely different team after losing all the sluggers. Personally, I like the running game and sack bunts. I agree completely, Jesus. This comment, by the way, was on one of our YouTube videos. If you want to reach us, you can go to youtube.com/LockedOnDiamondbacks, leave a comment, subscribe, and it's a great way to connect with us. We're going to be hearing a bit more from you guys as this show goes on. But first, Jesus, absolutely agree. It's weird to think that getting rid of a bunch of heavy hitters like we did would benefit us in such a short term. Usually sellers, you sell and it benefits you in the long term if done right. But this is not the first time, but at least the second time in recent years that the Diamondbacks improved after the trade deadline, after selling at the trade deadline. So Mike Hazen knows how to sell, I guess. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about our upcoming series against the Dodgers. We're also going to be hearing from you guys and some questions and some thoughts that you guys had. But before we do that, let's look at the updated playoff picture. And because yesterday was an off day, we're going to dive into this just a smidge more than usual. And we're actually going to explore the uncharted territory of the American League. So let's start with the National League. Good news for us: the Giants lost yesterday to the Cardinals, which means that the Giants and Cardinals are now tied. They are 3.5 games behind the Reds, who hold the final wild card spot, and they are essentially one game from elimination. Now, technically, they would be 2 games from elimination. They have 5 games left, and they're only 3.5 games behind. But if they lose one more game, the best they can do is tie with the Reds or the Mets or the Diamondbacks, actually they can't tie against the Cardinals. So one of those 3 teams, and they don't have the tiebreaker on any of them. So they have to beat those teams. So basically what I'm saying is the Giants and the Cardinals are out. We will make that official when either the Reds or the Mets win today or the Giants lose today. If any of those things happen, the Giants are out. Same with the Cardinals. But I guess the Giants and the Cardinals are playing. So one of them will get eliminated today, and hopefully the other the day after that. The Padres won their game against the Brewers, clinching a playoff berth. This is the first time they've clinched back-to-back playoff berths in, I think it was about 20 years. I might be mistaken on that, but it's the first time they've done that in a good long while. So I don't like the Padres, but I guess that's kind of cool. Good for them. But what that means is that they're playing with house money now. They hopefully will take it a little bit easy on their final series as they get ready for the playoffs, which is good because they are playing us in their final series. After the Cardinals, the Giants will play the Rockies. So hopefully they lose at least one game before then, or we win a game before then. After the Giants, the Cardinals will play the Cubs. The Mets are going to play the Cubs starting today, and the Marlins after that. The Cubs they have secured their spot in the wild card, so they may have their foot off the gas a little bit, but the Marlins have their foot full throttle on the I guess I'm mixing up my metaphors there a little bit, but they're going great. They are on a tear, big winning streak right now. So that's going to be a tough one for them. The Marlins are not going to make the playoffs, so there's a chance that they won't really be playing super hard, I guess, by the last series. That being said, I'm sure they would love to upset the Mets. So rooting for that. The Reds will play the Pirates and then the Brewers, which the Brewers are currently the number one seed in the playoffs. They have not clinched that spot yet, but they haven't really been playing super great lately either. So hopefully they can kind of get it together, knock the Reds out of contention there. Then we will play the Dodgers and then the Padres. We're going to be talking about the Dodgers series here in a minute. So how does all this look? Well, if we entering the postseason, whoever holds this final wild card spot will first play the Dodgers. After they play the Dodgers, if they were to win, they would then play the Phillies. Both of these games would not be home field advantage, by the way. Then they would play either the Padres, the Cubs, or the Brewers before entering the World Series. Most likely the Brewers, but you never know. That's just the way that the statistics are right now. And with all of those, whoever does end up playing in this final wildcard spot would not have home field advantage on any of these. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the American League real quick. I'm not gonna talk too much about this, but it is really interesting. Right now, all but one playoff spot is clinched in the National League, and it's a mad dash between three teams to get the final one. But the American League, only the Blue Jays have clinched their spot in the playoffs. And it's not like they clinched their division. They've clinched their berth in the playoffs. That's it. Every other team has yet to clinch. In the American League East, I don't have graphics up, unfortunately. I'll figure that out at some point. I promise, YouTube viewers. Until then, you guys are in the same boat as those who are just listening. But the AL East, the Yankees are in second place, and they trail the Blue Jays by 2 games. They are the only ones who stand a chance at winning the division. So it's between the Yankees and the Blue Jays. In the AL Central, the Guardians trail the Tigers by only 1 game. And they're also the only 2 teams in contention for the division. That, by the way, a massive, massive comeback. The Tigers have completely fallen off the rails over the last handful of games, whereas the Guardians have been playing incredible baseball. They were not meant to get this close. And yeah, they've won 9 of their last 10 games, the Guardians, whereas the Tigers have lost 9 of their last 10 games. The Tigers currently on a 6-game losing streak. The Indians just barely lost I think it was a 9-game winning streak. But so that's kind of crazy. So that's a fun one to watch. And then in the American League West, another very fun one to watch. Seattle has the lead, is currently holding the division spot, and the Astros trail by 3. Now the Astros, if you didn't know, were just swept by Seattle, by the Mariners. So they were tied, and then the Mariners, in very dramatic fashion in Houston, swept the Astros and are currently holding that final spot. So that's fun. That's crazy. A few other notes: the Rangers are eliminated officially. The Royals, who hold 3rd place in the AL Central, also eliminated. And I guess I should say from the division. I guess I should say. So let's actually go ahead and look at the wild card spot. The Yankees currently hold the first wild card spot, and they're up by 4 games. So they're holding on to that fairly comfortably. The Red Sox have the next spot, and they're up by 1 game. So they trail the Yankees by 3 games. And then the final wild card spot is a tie between the Guardians and the Astros. After that, the Rangers trail by 5 games. So one more loss or win from an opposing team would eliminate them. They're currently on a 7-game losing streak. So the Rangers are basically out. And then everybody below them, the Royals, the Rays, are also eliminated. So really what we're looking at is we're looking at Boston, Cleveland, and Houston as who will get the final 2 spots. And as of right now, the Indians have the tiebreaker over the Astros. So the Astros very well may be missing out on the postseason this year, which is crazy. I feel like that doesn't happen very often and hasn't happened for quite a while. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about our upcoming series against our good friends, the Los Angeles Dodgers. But before we do that, we are going to take a small break. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There's so many products out there and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Okay, one flawless ad read later, we are talking about the Dodgers series. So let's start with starting pitchers. Our starting pitchers for the next 3 games are Brandon Pfaadt, Ryan Nelson, and Zach Gallen. Pfaadt just came off of a 9-inning shutout, 1-hit appearance. Should have won the game. I'm still a little bit bitter about that. We don't have to worry about it. But Pfaadt, perfect, wonderful. He has struggled a bit against the Dodgers this year, but he has improved dramatically in the last, I'd say, month. I don't know if he's improved. I should say he has looked very good over the last month or so. Ryan Nelson also has been looking quite good, and the Dodgers do struggle quite a lot against Nelson. They have not had a good time against him. So that is promising. And then Zach Gallen has been looking just incredible his last handful of outings. And lots of strikeouts, goes deep into the game. Absolutely perfect and what we need right now. So let's go and look at the opposing pitchers. The Dodgers have Shohei Ohtani pitching in the first game, then Snell, then Yamamoto. Sorry, I know you're supposed to put the hard like T in there. I'm not very good at doing that. I'm sorry. I should be better about that. Anyway, Brandon Pfaadt has a 5.92 ERA in 39.2 innings over the last 7 starts. I forgot to write how many that was. In the last 7 starts, he has a 5.92 ERA. Most of that comes from the first and second of those 7. But in 39.2 innings. So not bad at all. Ohtani has a 4.03 ERA in 29 innings. So Pfaadt has 10 more innings on Ohtani. However, Ohtani has a considerably lower ERA. So definitely going to be a little bit of an uphill battle there. But if we're going to be seeing prime Pfaadt in this game, then definitely not an uphill battle for us. The only Diamondback, interestingly, to face Shohei Ohtani, according to the app, the Diamondbacks app, the MLB app, is Ketel Marte. I think he's only faced him like 3 times. So that is interesting because Ohtani hasn't pitched very much, obviously, this year. So that, I guess, isn't too big of a surprise. But it's interesting that only Marte has faced him, at least according to the MLB app. Sorry, I have like a hair on my hat. It's annoying. Again, you listeners didn't see that, unfortunately. But and then Brandon Pfaadt has this season given up 9 home runs against the Dodgers. There's a bunch of other statistics in there in the matchup. If you don't have the MLB app, you should totally have it because it has a ton of statistics that are wonderful to have. Game 2, we'll have Nelson versus Snell. Now, Nelson has a 3.46 ERA in 39.2 innings, which is the same as Pfaadt as far as innings go. However, Snell has a 1.70 ERA in 41.1 innings. So Snell is he's a tough cookie. And we definitely struggle against Snell. However, Marte, Alexander, and McCann all have at least one home run against him. So he's definitely not unhittable. And I imagine those three will be in the lineup for game 2. And then for game 3, we have Zach Gallen versus Yamamoto. And Gallen has a 2.13 ERA with 43.1 innings. He is doing incredible. And these are all over his last 7 starts. I should have clarified. Yamamoto has a 2.74 ERA, so just a bit higher, but in 46 innings. So Yamamoto also goes very deep in games, and we definitely struggle against Yamamoto. So that is going to be quite the challenge. Hopefully, we're going for a sweep and not a series win by game 3. I know Gallen is going to deliver, but we obviously, it would be nice if we win game 1 and 2, and we know that we are that we have that. But we'll see. We lost game 1 against the Phillies and still ended up winning the series. So if that were to happen, and that's the thing too, it doesn't matter which 2 games we win as long as we win 2 of them. So that but it would be nicer if they were the first 2 for my heart. Anyway, the LA bullpen has an ERA of 4.28, and our bullpen has a ERA of 4.84. For both of those, I know they go down if you look at the last month or so, but I did not check those numbers, unfortunately. But their bullpen, it's roughly equal. So their bullpen has a slightly lower ERA than ours does, but I have been feeling a lot more confident in our bullpen lately, especially since we haven't been needing to use them quite as often. And we have a lot of young guys who have really shown that they can step up to the occasion. And I think when used sparingly, they do an amazing job, and they do exactly what they need to do. When you start putting them in repeatedly over and over again, the cracks kind of start to show. And I don't know if that's because the other team gets the book on them or what. But like, I think of like Taylor Rashi, incredible first handful of outings. Since then, he still shows all the same promise, but he is starting to show a bit of the some of his issues are starting to come out, and the other teams, I think, are starting to exploit those. So if we throw Philip Abner in 2 of these games, I think he'll probably do really good. If we try and throw him in every game for more than 1 inning, I think by the end we're going to really start seeing some issues. And so I think Lovello understands that. I think he sees that. We'll still continue to use Taylor Rashi. We'll still continue to use Ryan Thompson and everybody that we have, but that is going to be a very interesting chess game that Lovello is going to have to play with Dave Roberts, manager of the Dodgers. Anyway, Marte and Carroll have struggled against the Dodgers this year, especially against Yamamoto and Snell. They have not. I don't think Carroll has had a single hit against Yamamoto. I could be wrong on that, but I know he's definitely not had any RBIs or home runs against him, and he has faced him a lot. So I think this series is going to be very important that our young crew really show up and play small ball. Like Jesus said at the beginning of this episode, steal bases. You got to put down the bunts. In the last game against the Phillies, we exploited their defensive errors so much by just putting down bunts, and they could not get they so many times they could not get our guy out at first. So the Dodgers, I think, have much better defense than the Phillies do, but I think that when done correctly, that will help out a ton. And then if and when Marte, Carroll, Moreno, Perdomo do show up and they're able to get a big hit or a big knock, or they're able to knock in a few runs, then the back end of the lineup will have, they'll be the ones to load the bases. They'll be the ones to get runners in scoring position deep into the game for Marte to hit a home run or just get a hit, something like that. We saw that a bunch in the series against the Phillies. So that needs to be the game plan for here as well. Our starters, they need to go long, and they need to keep up the good work. They just need to keep doing what they've been doing. The Diamondbacks also, we need to make sure that on offense, we're patient at the plate, the Dodgers do tend to walk a lot, especially their bullpen. They struggle with their locating the ball. So if we can be nice and patient, they may run themselves out, and that would be wonderful. So if we can stay in the game, hopefully keep a small lead through the first half of the game, then the second half exploit that their bullpen, then we may be able to come out with some good W's here. Anyway, let's go ahead and transition to our final segment of the show today by hearing from you guys. But before we get to that, we are actually going to hear from one of our sponsors. So stay right there. We will be right back. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, we have a handful of questions here, as well as some interesting takes from you guys. Once again, if you guys want to reach me, you can do that. Best way to do that, leave a comment on the YouTube video. I see it instantly, and also it helps the algorithm and stuff, and I greatly appreciate it. And then on our next off day, which hopefully is not the elimination day, but the day that the regular season ends leading up to the playoffs, we will have another segment like this, and you could be a part of that. Anyway, let's go ahead and start things off with our first question from Jeremy. Which team are you most nervous about, the Dodgers or the Padres? So the Dodgers have the better record, and they're the ones that we dislike more. But I feel like we're playing them at home. We're playing them at Chase Field. The crowd is going to be big, and it's going to be loud. There's going to be a lot of Dodgers fans there, unfortunately. I actually tried to get access to the media credentials for this series, and they were like, yeah, no, we're playing the Dodgers. So there's going to be a lot of people from LA. There's going to be a lot of national news people, and there's going to be a lot of international people here. We cannot let just some podcast host come in for that. But maybe next year. It's not this big old playoff run at the end of the season. So I came into the season a little late as the host of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. So maybe next year, from the beginning, it'll be a little easier to get some better exclusive stuff for you guys. Anyway, the Padres, we currently have the tiebreaker against the Dodgers. We've won more games against them than we've lost against them. So I kind of am inclined to say that I'm more nervous about the Padres series because it'll be in San Diego, and I'm getting PTSD flashbacks of when we were a game away from making the wild card last year, and we were playing the Padres, and we lost the series against them in San Diego. So this feels like kind of a repeat of last year, and that scares me a lot. So I would probably say I'm much more nervous about the Padres series. However, they've clinched their spot. The Dodgers have yet to clinch the division. So that is one reason to be more nervous about the Dodgers than the Padres. So hopefully the Dodgers, I guess if we win the series against the Dodgers, they won't have clinched unless the Padres lose this next series. So the Padres will have a lot to play for, actually. If we beat the Dodgers, if we're able to sweep the Dodgers, then yeah, the Padres are going to be playing pretty darn hard. So I guess that's my answer. I'm more nervous about the Padres series than anything else. But as we get closer to the Padres series, I think we'll be able to dissect that a little bit more. And maybe I'll be proven wrong. maybe by the time we get there, I'll be like, oh, we're facing these guys and we have these guys coming up. Oh, well, no, we're going to be fine. So, but I don't know. That's probably where I'm at right now. Another question from Jeff. What do you suppose it is with the team that they seem to thrive the best as underdogs? Is that a Lovello thing? The players? It seems like their stars, Carroll, Perdomo, etc., seem to turn it on when no one thinks they can, almost like they do when they think no one is watching or expecting much from them. Good question. So I've said this before that, yeah, the Diamondbacks are the best underdogs in the world because they do well when they're underdogs, when they're not considered to be very good. But they're the best underdogs because when they're not underdogs, they don't do very good. So, like the beginning of this year, I saw, according to One Power Rankings, we were ranked as the third best team going into the season. I don't know exactly where that was from, but it was like an official source. And that made me upset because I'm like, first of all, that's too high. Second of all, we're barely at like the 15th best team, if that. So yeah, no, the Diamondbacks absolutely perform better as underdogs. That sounds like a Lovello thing to me. I mean, that's the manager for you. He's the one that kind of provides that the mindset of the team. And he's always done very good at that. Even as soon as he came in after the 2016 series where the Diamondbacks were like the worst team in baseball. They were horrible. And then the very next year, we went to the playoffs. We actually did an amazing job with not that much change in our roster. A fair amount of change, but not a huge change. But then I think that's kind of a double-edged sword if it is with Lovello, because then Lovello doesn't know how to be the overdog. He doesn't know how to be the good team. He doesn't know how to manage a team that is successful. So, which I'm not saying that's the case, but if it is a Lovello thing, then you also have to ask the question, well, why do they underperform when they think things are good? The players, I think the players have the players are kind of at the whim of their own performance. And it's kind of it's that question of momentum. So when Corbin Carroll has momentum, when he's at his baseline, when he starts things off good, he goes really, really good. If he starts things off on just the wrong foot, he slumps hard. And we see that, I mean, the beginning of last year, he was in a big slump for a long time because he just couldn't get started. And also he's a younger player, and that happens a bit more with younger players. This is only his third season. But I think most of the players are a result of their own performance. So they do better, they get better. They do worse, they get worse. I don't know that I know that they play with a chip on their shoulder, and I think that's mostly because of Lovello. So like if they feel like nobody's expecting anything from them, they will play better. But I don't think that like Marte is looking at things being like, oh man, I've been in a slump lately. Well, you know what? Nobody expects anything from me. I'm going to prove them all wrong. I don't know that I don't see that from the players. We might want to credit Perdomo as just the team captain of being able to help the team kind of get over slumps and get back into the win column. But I think Perdomo is a bit more of an on the field kind of guy, just from what I've seen. And I don't know. I would love to have him on the podcast and we can ask him all about it. But it seems like, yeah, he seems to be more of an on the field kind of captain, whereas Lovello seems to be in the locker room. That's kind of what I've observed, but I don't know. I'd love to hear more from you guys. Finally, we have one more. I did a huge deep dive on this point right here, and we don't have much more time, so I'm going to speed through it. And I think I want to cover this in the off season because this was a super fun topic. Hayden says Carroll is the first player in franchise history to reach 30-30, the 30-30 club, 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. They've had lots of slow 30 home run hitters except for Steve Finley, and a few fast base runners, but not with as much power, like Tony Womack. But Corbin Carroll is kind of like a mix of Finley and Womack. Yeah, absolutely. I would totally agree. And this made me go, well, how close have we gotten in the past? I'm just going to ramble through these real quick. I would love to like really dissect some of these, but let's just quickly go through these. Steve Finley, because you brought him up, he had 34 home runs in 1999 and 35 home runs in 2000. However, he only had with the Diamondbacks 16 stolen bases. That was the most he ever had, which was in 2002. However, this was a surprise. He had 44 stolen bases in 1992 with the Astros, back when he was a young Steve Finley. So that's pretty fun. I did meet Steve Finley once when I was a kid, and I will tell that story later. Very funny, and it kind of shows me as a very strange baseball nerd. So remind me to explain that story to you guys, and I will, because that is fun. Tony Womack, another player that you mentioned, he had a record-breaking, he holds the franchise record with 72 stolen bases in 1999. The most home runs he ever had, though, was only 7 home runs in 2000. So Tony Womack was a big contact, fast speed demon kind of guy. He was not a power hitter at any point. But speaking of power hitters, let's look at a few others. Luis Gonzalez, most home runs in the season for the Diamondbacks, 57 home runs in 2001, but the most stolen bases he ever had on the Diamondbacks was in 2002 with 9. So not even close. Reggie Sanders, another big power hitter, he had 33 home runs at one point on the Diamondbacks with 14 stolen bases in 2001, but he was only on the team for the 1 year. Mark Reynolds in 2009 had 44 home runs and 24 stolen bases, both in 2009. So he got pretty close. He was only 6 stolen bases away. Jay Bell had 38 home runs in 1999, but never did have more than a dozen stolen bases. With 36 home runs in a season, we had Marte, Walker, and Suarez. Suarez actually, that was this year. So in less than a full season, Suarez had 36 home runs, but Suarez never had more than 10 stolen bases. Marte had 10 stolen bases in 2019. Walker had 11 in 2023. The closest that we ever saw a player, though, reach the 30-30 club in the same year was, I want to see if anybody would even ever guess this, Eric Burns in 2006 had 26 home runs and 25 stolen bases. So he was less than 5 away in each category of being the first Diamondback to reach the 30-30 club. You guys remember Eric Burns? I remember being a huge fan of his in 2006, and then really not being a fan of his in 2007 and 2008, but that's okay. The only other one that I want to point out is Paul Goldschmidt. He did steal a lot of bases, and in 2016, he had 32 stolen bases, and he has had 4 seasons with the Diamondbacks where he had more than 30 home runs. However, in 2016, the year he had 32 stolen bases, he only hit 24 home runs. So Paul Goldschmidt did have 30 home runs, and he did have 30 stolen bases as a Diamondback, but not in the same year. So very interesting, pretty fun. Corbin Carroll is the first to have both of those, 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. I think it for longtime Diamondbacks fans, it really is. He is pretty much, yeah, I'd say he's probably a mix of Steve Finley, which is great because he's an outfielder, of Steve Finley and I wouldn't say Tony Womack. Tony Womack was something else on the base pads. I wouldn't quite put him up there. Maybe like a 2000, 2001 Tony Womack, 2002, something like that. But he does have the same amount of stolen bases as Goldschmidt had, or almost the same amount of stolen bases as Goldschmidt in 2016. So that might be a good. He's fairly in line with Paul Goldschmidt, except he was able to get the 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases in the same season. So hopefully we continue to see more from Corbin Carroll, because he is so exciting and so fun to see that and what that holds for us in the future. Anyway, you guys, tonight is the big night. First game in our final series against the Dodgers, though hopefully not our final series. Hopefully we play them one more time here in October. But I will be posting updates on the YouTube channel, so make sure you go subscribe there if you haven't already. And guess what? We are back on Instagram and Twitter, or X. So go follow us at Locked On Diamondbacks. We're posting fun stuff over there all the time. I will be back here tomorrow morning to get things ready for our series against LA. We are on YouTube and on every other place where you get your podcasts. If you want to see more of me, you can find more of my YouTube channels and projects at slackshack.tv. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. My name is Danon Biggs, and I will see you tomorrow.